Okay guys, this time I got a new application that uses NGRX and Angular. Okay, I'm using the same approach I did with other state management frameworks. That I'm creating a single a simple weather app, so I can show you how in this case NGRX is built. So okay, let's say, I don't know, I'm gonna say Mexico, search. Okay, you can see what it returns. It returns only the local time, okay, and the city and the state. So you can see that we are getting here a response from reducer action fetch and from reducer action success that is actually retrieving information from the API. Okay, I'm using a PHU as always with this kind of applications. So, and this is a console that I'm doing on the main component. Okay, so let's take a look. It has a lot of code. I'm not going to lie, I'm not an expert on NGRX, but I'll try to explain what most of the code does. And also, well, let's start. So first of all, let's go to package.json. Okay, so you can see what I got, and I'm using a new mic, so let me know if it's too loud, you know, or should I have to turn the volume down a little bit. So okay, let me find this. Where the hell it is? Okay, NGRX store. So let's go to NGRX. So nope, this is not it. I don't want to translate anything for Angular. Check out the website ngrx.io. Docs, well, getting started. Okay, you will need to install this npm install ngrx store. So that's all you need by now. Okay, and I think that's all you need to install. So let's continue. First of all, you will need to create a store directory. I'm inside app. Okay, so below my component, I create this store directory. Okay, inside you can create your actions, effects, models. In this case, I don't have any models here. But I will show you what I mean with that. So you can create your actions directory that will store your actions, your effects that will store your effects, your models that will store your interfaces, okay, and the reducers. And this index that is inside this store is going to retrieve and export everything from these folders, okay, the reducers, the actions, and the effects. So we can have access from the store to all these folders. So okay, what's first? First, let's take a look at actions that are the kind of the simplest thing in this NGRX framework. So let's take a look. We need to import action from NGRX store. Okay, in case you have any model in the model folder, you import this. Okay, and this is actually the action names. Okay, that we're going to use. Let's say action names that we're going to listen. So use fetch weather fail, and these are just strings. So we made it into a constant, and fetch weather fail, and fetch weather success. Those are the actions that we are going to listen, okay, or the strings that we are going to listen inside our reducers, okay. So if you know Redux from React, you kind of get this functionality, okay. So it's kind of like Redux. Well, it uses the same infrastructure, I mean, in a way, but you will see what I mean. So in this case, we create the actions. The actions are just classes exported that implement this action class, okay, or interface. So we say export class, the name of the action, the name of the class, I mean, we can give it any name, and we implement action inside that, okay. We get this type. I'm really not sure about what that type does. Let me take a look. By now, I've only seen this read only, so I will take a look at that. And what I'm planning to do is more using this implementation to add more things. Well, not this exact implementation, but to keep working with let me save this, to keep working with NGRX and state management, to integrate it with Firebase, and you know. But I will do more things with NGRX, so I can fill the gaps of what everything is doing. But right now, we only need to say read only to specify the type that is going to be this the name of the action, okay, we want to call. We create a constructor. We pass in case we want to get data, okay. You will see why we have this. So in case, okay, I had it here, set payload to any to pass a message. You can say the payload to be, I don't know, an object or something else, okay. Any is the easiest way to set the payload, so it will get anything, okay. So as you can see, all the actions are classes that we're going to export, and we are going to implement action interface from NGRX that we got it here, okay, into that class. We create a constructor. We added the payload because the payload is the data we're going to pass, okay, and we export the action types. We export the type weather actions, okay, and we export fetch weather or fetch weather fail or fetch weather success. This variable will contain the tree, okay, and will swap in certain cases, okay, as we call it. So it will retain the three instances, and TypeScript will change the value as we progress. Okay, so that's for the actions. As you can see, the actions are not the hardest thing in NGRX. Inside index.ts, we export everything from weather. Okay, I didn't show you that, from weather action. Okay, so we import everything that we're exporting here. You can see export, export, export. Okay, and we are exporting everything that is inside this weather action that is going to be exported, and so we can access that. Okay, and that is being piped in a way into this export that is going to allow us to access all the exports just referencing this folder, okay, this directory. So that's actions, and let's go to reducers. So that's why I'm not making tutorials or things like that with things that I'm learning, because I want to have the working implementation so I can show you how it works, and maybe later I will create a tutorial. Okay, maybe this year I will start with tutorials about React and Angular. I was going to do something with Vue, but I just don't like Vue. I have too much on my plate right now, and I don't have time to play and to to learn Vue. I'm going to start with Python, and I want to make some tutorials about pure Python later, maybe 6 or 7 months from now. So you can expect Python content maybe sooner. I don't know, because I got a little experience with Python, but I haven't created anything. So let's go back to reducers. Okay, so these are the actions: exported classes with the name and that implement the action. We create the type and the constructor. Okay, the types, remember, that are coming from here. Okay, so let's go back to reducers and let's go and see what we have here. We import the actions that we already have created inside this weather.action.ts file, and we create this state, okay, this interface that is going to be the weather state, that in my head or in this application, the weather state is going to have a data that is going to be the object that contains all the, let me show you, because that's why I want to have what the hell? Why is this thing? I'm receiving the same thing. Let's go to maybe, I don't know, Paris. Everything is working. I don't know what the hell is going on here. So, okay, let me show you. This data object is what I'm receiving here. You can see that it's an object with location and current inside. Okay, so this is the actual object that I'm planning to have in this interface. Okay, so weather state is going to have a data, okay, a property that has an object, and that object will contain all the values and properties that we receive from the API. Okay, we have a loaded and loading boolean that we can do some things with that, checking maybe if it's loaded or not, and show something. But in this case, I'm not using any of these. Okay, so here we create another constant that is going to be our initial state. Okay, this is just an interface. So we are going to set this initial state of the application to be the type this weather state. Okay, that is contain a data that in this case from the start is going to have only an empty object, and it's going to have loaded and loaded as false. Okay, so in this case, well, here we implement the reducer is a function. Okay, so we say export function reducer. We pass the initial state, that is this one. Okay, and we pass an action that in this case is going to come from weather actions. Okay, and weather actions. Let me see. Okay, is this thing. So here from these weather actions, okay, let me even type it again. Weather actions is what we are getting here. Okay, and from there we can have type weather actions, that is that the fetch weather fail, and fetch weather success. Okay, we're going to receive that. I mean, we're going to pass that, and we're going to return the weather state. Okay, so we make a switch statement. In this case, we're returning the state if anything. Okay, let me first tackle this. So from this action, we say, okay, give me the action type. Okay, that is going to be fetch weather fail, or fetch weather success. Okay, in the case we have a fetch weather, I'm just going to console, in this case, from the user action fetch, and I'm not passing anything here. Okay, so this is when we actually start fetching, or the action that makes the fetching start. Okay, so I'm not receiving any data here. In the case we have fetch weather success, that the service actually returns something. Okay, then we're going to pass that payload. Okay, here, sorry, we're going to receive a payload. Okay, we create a constant data and get the payload. I will show you in a little bit. Okay, I have the weather service here, so I will show you what I'm doing here. And from there we return the new instance with the data. Okay, so let me go to weather service, because oh, it's actually the effect. Yeah, it's kind of little. Let's keep working with this, and I will show you in a little bit when we fetch the data from the service and the effect, what is going on. Okay, so in this case we're receiving the action payload. Okay, and adding that into the state of the application. Okay, so in case the fetch fails, okay, I'm just going to get the payload, because I'm sending an error message. Okay, I'm using from reducer action fail, and let me see if I don't know why I'm getting these errors. I don't know. And passing that, just as I'm doing here, passing that into the state, into the interface. Okay, then I return the state, and in case yes, I'm just returning the unchanged state, and here I'm returning the data into the state. Okay, so that's what I mean with that is a lot of code. I will try to explain the flow of the application, okay? Because if you understand the flow, as I'm trying to do in all my code reviews, then you will get the idea of how to implement more things, you know, and how to improve that application or whichever application you are working with. But if you understand the flow, okay, it doesn't mean you will need to remember all this. You can have access, and for example, in this one with my code. So if you understand the workflow, you can improve your applications and work faster with your applications. Okay? And you will actually understand what your application is doing instead of following a tutorial that just shows you in just do this and you will get that and that's it, and you know, like most of the tutorials are. So okay, I'm going to take that shit out. So well, here are the reducers. The reducers are taking the type of the action and we are using that type to return or change data or unchange data. Okay, so in this case, okay, I'm using this kind of getters that access some parts of the interface. Okay, so I'm saying export constant get weather loading. I'm passing the state, okay, that is going to be the type weather state that we have here, okay, the top state, and we're going to return, let me type this again, return state that, and we get access to these properties. Okay, so let's say I think it was loading, that loading, okay, and it will return us the state of the loading, loaded, and data. Okay, so it should return us this, and I think that's it from the reducer. Just something else I want to, or I have to explain. So we make the top weather state that is going to be the interface that's going to give the type to our initial state. Okay, see, we're exporting most of the things here. We create a function reducer, passing the state, the initial state, and passing the actions, okay, that we exported here. And weather actions is what we are exporting here. Okay, so let's close weather actions, we don't need that. And here we can access parts of the state. Okay, so we don't have to access all the state and get the property inside our component. That my component is here. Okay, so that's the reducers, and let's go to the effects. Okay, of course I'm using the index. Oh, okay, I need to display this one too. So we need to create selectors. Okay, selectors allow us to access parts of the store. So let me show you, because I didn't show you. Let me go to my module, to my app module. And first of all, we need to import NGRX store, the store module, okay, the effects module right away, and the reducers and effects. Okay, so reducers is coming from here. Okay, here in the index we're exporting all the reducers. Okay, and the effects are the same thing, are coming from here, but effects will take a look at that in a second. So you can just skip this, import store module, and also skip this one. Well, you can import it, you can even add it, but you will need to add effects. Okay, but I was talking about, let's go to, let's not close that. Let's go to index. Okay, we need to import the action reducer, the create selector, and the create feature selector from NGRX store. Let's go to app module. Oh, because it's okay, it's closing that. From the store module, okay, I'm creating a for root. I don't have any lazy loading or anything like that. I create a for root, and I'm passing an object. Okay, so this is going to be accessed by the create feature selector. I'm creating the name weather, and I'm passing reducers that weather. Okay, that is coming from reducers. Okay, and reducers that weather is a action reducer. Okay, let me see. It's coming from reducers. Okay, what is okay, let me see if I can remember, because action reducer, my mind is kind of so where this thing is coming from, if I can remember. Okay. It should be here. Okay. So okay, let's explain this one first. Man, this thing is like, let's go to app module. So in this case, we pass the name, okay, and okay, let me get this because I'm not thinking straight. It's a property from okay, I can see that. Okay, let's go through this file. So a semicolon there. Okay. So okay, we import the reducers. Okay, the weather reducer from weather that reducer that is here. Okay, and here on the reducer we're importing the actions. Okay, remember that workflow. So let's go to no effects, no index, reducer index. We export this interface. Okay, so I can see what we are doing here is the weather. Okay, so we export this interface state that in my case I'm using this one as the major state of the application. Okay, and I'm using weather, that is the property, and passing weather reducers, that is coming from here, and weather state, that weather state is the interface. Okay, so we need to register the weather functions, the reducer functions. So we create a constant called reducers that uses the reducer map and passes the state okay, that in this case is this state, okay, and we use this property that is going to be called weather to be the weather reducer, and the reducer that is the function. Where the hell is that thing? That is the function that we are exporting, okay? And here we create the feature selector. Remember that this name is going to be the same that what we are getting here, okay? So in this case, reducers.weather is type action reducer weather state and action, okay? So we need to create a selector for that name, that is this one. As you can see, I have some code here that I was just checking because I didn't quite understood at that moment what this was doing, but we need to actually create a feature selector using the name we added in the import, in the for root I mean, and from there we can access the pieces, okay, of the state. So in this case, this select weather state is going to be equal to a create feature selector for the state, for the weather, okay, and here we use the slices to create the selectors that we're going to receive. The selectors are going to give us parts of the state, okay. So let me remove this and save. So as I said, and I will repeat it again, this requires quite a lot of implementation, okay, at least that's what I think, that this is a lot of implementation in order to access the state, but this one seems to be best practices, so that's why I'm following this. And once I get more into NGRX, I will be able to, explain to you in more detail what everything is doing. But in this case, I'm just going to try to explain the workflow. So we create a selector. So we use this function that is here. We imported that from NGRX store. And from weather reducer, okay, that is the weather reducer we're importing here, we say get weather data, okay, that okay, let me show you. Okay, is these state selectors, kind of like getters, okay, like I said, we're accessing that here, not in the effects, let me close this, here in the index. So we're exporting that into the top store, okay. So we use create selector, we pass the let me see, okay, the state that we're going to access or that we want to access, and we use the selectors or getters we have on our actions. So it's the same, these two are the same. We're getting the loading and the loaded from get weather loading and get weather loaded that are here, okay, get weather loading and get weather loaded, that we're returning the state of loading, of loaded, and data, okay. So yeah, these are the reducers, and yes, for reducers, yes. So let me close this one and let me go to this one. So in this case, this weather, I'm not thinking that straight. It's coming from reducers. This constant reducers. Okay. I see what I'm doing here. It's index. Constant reducers, that is action store map, and we are getting this. Okay, that is what the reducer is accessing the reducer that is inside here. Okay, so that's the workflow. Okay, so we access that with the create feature selector. Now let's go to effects. I know this is a little kind of boring because this is a lot of code, so let's try to keep working with this. So okay, this is the part that we're going to use to access our service, okay, or weather service. That let's see what our weather service is doing. So it's just a service, weather service, that is going to have the instance of HTTP client. We're calling this function, or we're creating this function, get weather data, that is accepting a city, that is a string. We're going to return an observable of any, because this client returns an observable, this HTTP client. So we're going to return this, that HTTP client that get the issue, okay, and the city we're going to get here. Okay, so that's the service that we're going to access inside our store. So we create an injectable, and we need to import effect actions and off type from NGRX effects. Okay, we need to import our actions because I mean we are going to listen for that. Okay, those are the triggers. We import the action type from the store, NGRX store, and we import switch map, and catch error from area RxJS operators. Okay, so we need to import also the service, that is our weather service, and observable and off from our XJS. So we decorate our effect, or class with the injectable. We export this weather effects class, okay, and into the constructor we're going to pass this action observable and this weather service. Okay, so actions is a type of action, and weather service is actually our service. So in order to call the service, we need to decorate the effect, or we need to tell NGRX and Angular this is an effect, and that we are going to receive an observable. Okay, so this load effect, load weather, I mean, is an observable that imports the action, okay, the type action, and we call this that actions, okay, that pipe. We check the type, okay, so we check weather actions. That remember that weather actions are being imported from the actions, okay, and we access fetch weather. So let's take a look at actions. Okay, we're accessing fetch weather effects, and we use switch map. Okay, I was using merge map, but no, we use switch map because in case there's an error, it changes the return. Okay, so it doesn't get stuck using the same observable. It changes the observable and returns that in this case is going to return the message. Okay, So we use switch map. Okay, you can see the comma here because pipe uses the comma. So we check if the type is fetch weather. Okay, we haven't dispatched any action, so this is just the preparation for that. So of type fetch weather, we use switch map. Okay, in this case I'm using action any, and I'm going to you need to return an observable. Okay, to return an observable. I'm getting my throat itchy. Seems like I'm getting to the a cold or something like that, and I'm getting my throat really itchy. So if you hear something, it's because of that. So I'm it's a little uncomfortable. So return that the service. Okay, we access the function in a service. Okay, I mean this is not a service. This yeah it's a service. This weather service get weather data, and we pass the payload. Okay, so we pipe that, and we map through this service to this function, and we're going to receive this data. Okay, that is the payload. So we say if everything went right here in the service, use this type, the weather actions fetch weather success, and pass the payload that is going to be the data received, okay, by the service. Where is my service? Okay, so remember we're returning all the things we are getting from this API request. So that is okay, let's go to effects. Okay, and we are kind of dispatching this action right away. So we're saying, okay, if everything went right, dispatch this fetch weather success that is going to receive that data. Okay, so in this case, let me go back to actions because that's in actions. So we're going to use this fetch weather success and is expecting a payload. Okay, I can delete this. Well, close this one. Okay, I'll keep that open. Let me close this one. Okay, and in case we dispatch that action, we're going to return. Okay, we're going to set the constant data to be the action payload that we're receiving, and we're going to return that. Okay, this is not it. Let me go back to weather effects. And in case something went wrong, we catch the error, we use catch error, and we return an observable of, okay, we need of here, new weather actions, we can call this here like that, and we should be able to call it here also using new, and the name of the class as a function. Okay, so it's a new weather action fetch weather fail. That fetch weather fail is let me go back to actions. Fetch weather fail. Okay, this is the one we are calling. We are accessing it as a function. Where the hell am I? I don't like that it closes what I have open. So Okay, and since fail is expecting a payload, we pass the error message. Okay, I am accessing the message property inside error. Okay, so I'm returning that. So if the result is okay, then we're going to dispatch this. Okay, and if there's an error, we're going to dispatch this. Okay, and or better said, we're going to call these actions. Okay, so that's the effect. Decorate the effect, and you will need to check the type and use switch map so you don't get stuck using the say observable. Okay, so switch map will change the observable that is passing. So okay, you can see what we have imported here, and I think that's all for the back of NGRX for the implementation. Because inside index, okay, I got this one. We need to import weather effects, that is class weather effects. Okay, and we create this one is going to be an array. Okay, so in case you want to add another, I don't know, users that affects that TS below this one, you can just import. Okay, import that. If I can type, you can just import that and add a comma and say user effects. Okay, just like that. So let's go to app module, and in this case we already have the two parts, the reducers and the effects. So here we're using the reducers that we already have, and in order to use the effects, we use effects module that is imported here for root, and we pass these effects that contains all our array of effects. Okay, so let's go to the actual component. So remember, this is how it looks. So we type let's say Cancun search. Okay, so we receive this first reducer action fetch, that is the action that is being called. Let's go back to action. So I want you to understand that we are consoling from reducer action fetch when we fetch this. Okay, when we call this action, because the service is being called is saying from reducer action success and is passing the payload. So that payload, okay, reducer from reducer action success, that payload is this whole object. Okay, and also this one. So let me go, so you can see, let me go to the service. Let's say I missed a 7 there from my API key. Let's say Mexico search. Okay, okay, this one is from my component, but you can see from reducer action fail, HTTP failure response for HTTP, okay, blah 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 401 unauthorized. That's the because I'm passing this one, and this one shouldn't be getting that, but this is just the front end. I mean the view problem, so you can fix that anytime. So I'm actually returning the error. Okay, so in case something happens, I'm just going to return that error, but everything should work right now. Okay, so if you're expecting an error to happen, you just catch that error. Let me go back to the service, not the service, sorry, the effect, because we're using the effect to access the service. And you catch that error and run that action. Okay, so let me close effects, let me close service, let me close index, and weather reducer. Remember that all that actions, effects, and reducers are being imported here on the main index.ts that is on the same how can I say this? On the same level. Okay, so inside store we're accessing this index. Okay, so let me close this. We already have that one. We already have this one. So let's actually go to the component and see what we need. Okay, so as you can see, you type something. Let's say I don't know, I'm gonna say Miami. Okay, so you type and you get the data. So what is going on here? First of all, if you want to get the full state, you need to pass this data store that select. You need to use select from the store. Okay, and let me show you the imports. I got a store from NGRX store and I got weather store from the store. Okay, and I'm passing a store. Okay, I mean I'm using the instance store that is an instance itself of a store, and I'm passing the weather state. Okay, weather store, and I'm passing the state, the interface state. Okay, so when we submit, we get the values, okay, of the input, and we pass those values, talking about this function. Okay, let me pass this one because this one is it looks odd being down there. Okay, I will show you this in a second. So this is the function that is calling the action, okay, that is dispatching the fetch weather action. So we call this fetch weather when the submit is done. Okay, getting the values. I'm just getting the from data city value, and remember that our service only requires the city, so we call this a store. Okay, dispatch, and we access that class using the new keyword, and we say weather store that fetch weather. As you can see, is a constructor that receives the payload. Okay, and we pass the city, and we loop through our service, our effect, and our service, and we receive that data. Okay, so let me even retype this so you can see. We have these constructors, the fetch weather fail, fetch weather, and fetch success. Okay, we use fetch weather, but what it says, okay, that it expects the payload, but the payload was not provided. So we add that payload, that in this case is our city. We save that, okay, and we can use the application as usual. So here we need to dispatch the action, so we can populate the weather state, and from here we are calling the store. We are selecting weather store get weather state data that is returning no, get weather state data is okay, let me see if I can find that. Okay, select from our store using the created store selectors. So my store selectors, I think, are in the index. Okay. So this get weather state data is accessing the get weather data that is inside the reducer and is getting the state of that data property. Okay, from weather store that we have imported, we access that store selector. We subscribe to that. Okay, we're going to receive the state, and I'm checking if this state has keys. Okay, that I'm going to say I'm going to set this weather data that I got here, okay, to be that state. So why I'm checking if this has keys, because remember that if there's nothing, okay, it's going to only be an empty object. So that's why I'm checking that. And also in this example, I'm not using entities or things like that are a little more complicated. Well, not that complicated, but add a little more of depth into the application. So I will change that later as I get better with NGRX. So it's almost an hour of video, as I see 57 minutes, almost 58. So here I'm setting the data, this weather data, to be the state as soon as we init that component. Okay, so we are getting this because the state is empty, it's just an empty object, and the simple thing I'm doing here is checking if weather data is something. Okay, and if there's nothing, I'm just consoling that I'm just showing the template that shows or that says there is no data in the state, and once I have something, then I'm just returning that. Okay, so that's NGRX store using the state selectors. It's a lot of code. Actually, you can see all we have implemented in order to retrieve the just a single service call. So that's the only odd thing I'm looking at. That is a lot of implementation. But once you have this set, okay, you can actually add or once you have something you can look at while making this, an application with Angular that uses NGRX, you can easily follow the steps and the workflow. So yeah, I think that's it. So if you have any doubt, type it in the comments and I will try to explain. So also sorry for the lack of videos in the channel. I was busy, and last December and part of January I was busy working, so even though I finished my work kinda a week ago, I took some days to rest and to take it easy, just playing some video games. And yeah, so without even recording, but I was also busy making this NGRX. Also I have another, but that's not work. I just plug in my music and listen some music while I'm coding, and I just do that to chill. So I got another one that is React and Firestore. I'm actually working on that right now, or I'm going to work on that authentication this evening, so you can use the router to check if the user is authenticated or not, and it will refuse to load that route. Okay, something like the outgots here. Also have a little privacy web app with notifications that I will show you. But as I said, that's it for this video, and expect more content, also cloud functions that I need to record using this React front end. Also I have a Laravel API there that I want to show you, that we will later connect. I have a lot of things that we will later connect with. I got sockets also, web sockets. I got a lot of code, just sitting there that I haven't had the time to make a video of it. But expect more content in the channel and subscribe. Okay, that will help me to actually keep this thing going. If I see people are commenting and subscribing, that it fuels me. It's like, okay, people really need what I'm doing, and it keeps me motivated to build more things and show you more things. So yes, and as I said, that's all, and see you on the next one.